Welcome to Whiskey and Whitetails, the show for those that hunt with a passion and drink with a purpose. As always, I am your host, Gus.
I'm Matt.
As we always say, thank you to our Patreon for their support and their awesome executive producer input. Thank you to the Waypoint Network for having us. And thank you to you for your support and your input. If you're new here, welcome. If not, welcome back.
Let's finish it for you. Today we have an awesome guest, John Schneider. Before we even did this podcast, which you'll hear in a second, I was telling the wife, I was like, I'm so excited for this. We have like the guy that you always want to talk about and be about, and like every hunter's dream man, John Schneider. So cooking with fire, wild food, farming. He's a photographer, videographer. He's just an all around beast. Traditional bow hunting. He makes his own bows, fletches his own arrows, wing shooting, campfire cooking, backcountry camping. I mean, you name it, this guy does it. And he's a true outdoorsman. And we're here this week to talk about his new ventures, if you will.
Yeah. So John Schneider has a podcast and a YouTube channel called John Schneider's Wild Life. And essentially, he's sort of documenting his process of leaving the life, the only life he'd ever known of farming and hunting and fishing, as Matt mentioned there, to embrace a simpler, self-sufficient existence on a 28-foot sailboat, exploring the Pacific Ocean and sharing the adventure along the way. The only catch is to the whole thing, he's never sailed before. So, so we're going to be talking about that whole adventure, talking about his journey and what he's looking forward to sharing about sustainable living, the pursuit of his dreams, and just the thrill of hunting and catching wild food or catching wild game, fish and cooking and cooking and having that food on the high seas. So stay tuned. Should be a good one this week.
Absolutely. If you're into homesteading and basically self-sustainment with nature around us, you're gonna enjoy this episode. And it is brought to you by ad read time. Well, what do we got here, folks? It's me, your friendly neighborhood gangster, and I've got a hot tip for you. This is a 1920s gangster, by the way. Are you tired of take it for a ride by other wireless carriers paying a king's ransom for your phone service? Well, listen up, pal, because I got the inside scoop on Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile, see? They're real McCoy when it comes to wireless. They're offering plans that start just $15 a month. You heard me right, 15 schmackers. And you're still getting top-notch nationwide coverage. Sweet deal. It'll make your head spin. Now, you might be thinking, what's the catch, huh? Well, that's the straight dope, see? Mint Mobile runs on the nation's fastest, most reliable network. You won't be losing any of that quality you're used to. No siree. And then ChatGPT said it again. It's the real McCoy. And here's the kicker, folks. You ain't locked in, no long-term contracts. Nah, Mint Mobile gives you the flexibility you deserve. You pick a plan that suits you, and if your needs change, your plan changes. Simple as that. No funny business. So what are you waiting for, pal? Head on over to mintmobile.com/whiskey and check out the goods. They'll even seen a free SIM card. You can get rolling right away. So easy. Even a monster like me can do it.
Yeah.
Mint Mobile. It's wireless the way it should be. Smooth, affordable, and dependable. Don't be a sap. Get wise and go to mintmobile.com/whiskey. Keep your moolah in your pocket where it belongs, and let's make a deal with Mint Mobile. Fun.
Oh man, this podcast is also brought to you by our friends over at Vantage Point Archery and their awesome products. Vantage Point Archery leads the way in precision machine one-piece products. They develop the toughest broadheads by which all others in the industry are measured. We know this from our own use and our own personal experience. They have grown rapidly in the past couple of years, and it can only be attributed to the strength, quality, and performance of their commitment to U.S. manufacturing and customer service, which, in our opinion, is second to none. And we love supporting a great product, and we love supporting American-made products. So that's why we are very proud to have VPA as a sponsor.
Absolutely. Single bevel, 2-blade, 3-blade, whatever you need. They also have small game thumpers, 200 grain, which I need because these squirrels be eating all my corn. So next time I'm out there, I need to pick up a pack of the small game thumpers, take a couple squirrels with me. But yeah, precision machined. Their goal has always been to create and supply durable American-made broadheads to the market to make bow hunting more ethical. All VPA products are CNC machined for one solid piece of bar stock, no weld lines or brazing. And they provide our products with ultimate strength and durability. So shoot a brand you can trust, shoot VPA. That's what we always say. So yeah, enjoy this episode. Thank you all for tuning in.
Enjoy.
We are live.
Outstanding. Well, thank you, John. We've got John here this week with us. Appreciate you taking some time to join us. And for those who aren't familiar with John Schneider, John has a pretty cool platform. He's got a podcast. He's got a YouTube channel, um, and you just rebranded, I think, right? So you had a podcast that went by Food Afield, and then you kind of rebranded that to match what you had going on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. I was finding some problem. Well, first of all, good Gus and Matt, thank you for having me. I really
Oh
appreciate the
yeah,
opportunity to
Oh,
be on your
my
show here.
pleasure.
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, rebranded to John Schneider's Wild Life. I don't know. I sort of struggle. Like you guys seem to have nailed the genre or they always tell you to grab your niche, and you guys certainly have done that with your show. But I was sort of struggling with the whole wild food thing and the fly fishing and bow hunting. And then I'm throwing in the live aboard sailboat thing and I'm starting to explore wild food and campfire cooking on the Pacific coast. And it was just getting to be a bit of a gong show as far as what my niche was, what was my show about. And then I thought, the one niche that I'll always have is just me, and my name. And so, yeah, it just sort of made sense. I had a bunch of people a lot smarter than me tell me not to do it, but I don't know. It just felt like the right thing to do. So yeah, I rebranded everything, the website, the podcast, everything, the YouTube channel, everything is now called John Schneider's Wildlife. So yeah.
What I
Well,
think the reason they probably said not to is because it's hard to get those people to follow you. But you do such interesting stuff, John.
No,
We
thank
followed you right along, and this sailboat venture. Well, I want to get into it, but it's so crazy all the things that you're into and that you do, and every time I watch a video of yours, I'm like, is this the same guy?
you. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
you're kind of a modern day Renaissance man blended with um, I don't know, sort of a with the old explorers that explored the West. You're just doing it all when it comes to the outdoor stuff. I think it's great.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I appreciate it. I mean, sometimes it's hard not to think of that as a detriment, like I admire people that are just settled and in their space, and doing the thing that they love and are consistent. And I've just never been that guy. It's a personality defect of mine, I guess, which leads to doing some interesting things. And in fairness, um, I've always been able to prioritize things. I had young children and I had a family, and those things were the priority, of course, as they should be. And now something's just presented itself where this new opportunity has come along where I'm not abandoning any of those commitments anymore. It depends how you look at it, I guess. And people from the outside might not understand my decision to leave a marriage and leave a place that I've always known to go pursue something else. But I don't know. There's a lot of details, as there is with any person alive. There's a story that you don't get to hear and that you never will get to hear because it's frankly none of anybody's business. But there's there's a lot of things that went on with this decision to do this, not the least of which is that it just was a life that wasn't working anymore. And now everybody seems happier, and I mean that sincerely. I'm happier, my wife is happier, my kids are happier, for us, and everything. I'm trying to do the right thing financially by not disrupting the family. Everybody sort of gets to live in the same place they've always lived and do the same things they've always done. And if I'm making the decision to change this life, then I will be the one that sort of suffers the consequences of that more than anybody else, at least to the full extent that I can manage. So, yeah.
well, I'm excited to watch it. It's to like your site is just so full of knowledge. I've scrolled through so much of it, and I watched the podcast, the 2 part with Sean James, or
Mm.
listened to the podcast with Sean James, and it's like, every time you talk, and the guests that you have, and like kind of the valleys that you find yourself in. I feel it right at home with kind of the way we look at our lives and how. I don't want to speak for Gus, but the way we look at life, it's like it's a pursuit of like you only get one of these, and I'm happy for what you're doing, and I know that it's probably tough at times, but if it's best for everyone, how could it be a bad thing?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I agree. Change is hard, of course. It is full of unknowns. It's full of risk. It's full of all of those things, but it's also filled with excitement. It's been a dream of mine for a long time to live on a sailboat. I've lived in this county for my entire life, so that's 56 years now. And I again, I admire the people that are able to do that and be happy, but I'm just not that guy. It's something I've always been a wanderer. I've always been or wanted to be. I've never been a wanderer, but I've always wanted to be. I've always wanted to see the world and meet people and do interesting things. And so I've done that to the best of my ability. So thanks, Matt, for mentioning that. Like when you see the things I do, well, that's to the best of my ability within this sphere of influence that I'm in this county and in this province. And yeah, now, man, it's just time to go and do something else, I think, right? So
100%. Does any of this have to do with getting out of Canada? I had to
getting out of
ask.
no, no, no.
Okay.
Yeah, no, yeah, I know what you mean. Dude, we're not going to go there, are we? You're not.
Yeah. No. I don't want to. No.
I
I just wondered.
yeah, well, uh, where would I go though? Like,
Yeah.
name a place that's better, right? Like everybody seems to be
The
having
Pacific Ocean.
the Pacific Ocean. Absolutely. Yeah. I today actually you mentioned Sean James. I was just Sean James has a new podcast now. And I was his
Oh,
first
cool.
guest on that podcast, and that episode was just released today, as a matter of fact. So it's up
Oh,
on
awesome.
wherever he does
Oh,
his
awesome.
podcast, YouTube, I think. And so there was I'm getting yeah, there's some people, there is a little bit of hate, but I think there always will be. The vast majority of people are like you that are wishing me well. They're assuming that I'm a good person doing the right thing, which I believe I am. And so they're wishing me well. But there's a few people that don't quite get it, that don't understand the details behind the story. And like I said earlier, never will. And that's okay. But the anyways, as it pertains to your story in the Pacific Ocean, is that I'm getting quite a bit of, well, 2 or 3 comments today alone from people that live in Hawaii. And I mean, of course, they had their problems too this summer with that huge fire. But, um, that seems to be, there's places, I guess, that are remote like that maybe don't have to deal with sort of the political climate that we're faced with here in North America, it seems. So yeah, the less I have to do with people, the better, I guess. Within reason. That sounds stupid because here I am putting my life out for people to consume. But um, I don't know. My goal, I guess, is to try to just get people to present to people an alternative lifestyle that maybe is achievable for anyone. Um, I'm not a millionaire b- by a long shot. And so I'm trying to do things affordably. I'm trying to live this lifestyle as self-sufficiently as I can. Um, and I think that's my goal with this whole thing. It's always been my goal is here's good food that you can eat. Here's really good food that you can eat. And you don't have to spend hundreds of dollars to achieve it, right? So you can do it yourself. And then that's just what I'm
Yeah.
doing now with the sailboat is an extension of that, I think. Yeah.
Can we get into how you got started? Because I know you were. Did you start with the farming kind of deal, or that came with it?
Uh, how I got started with with the whole wild food thing, Matt, or
Yeah, just the lifestyle that you live and like
oh
traditional bow hunting and just all that stuff.
yeah. Geez, that started from as early as I can remember. 7 or 8 years old, in around there. I was just hunting and fishing crazy. I had nobody in my life that was like that or that um could help me out with that at all. Dad didn't hunt or fish. I didn't have uncles or anybody that did. And so it was just one of those weird genetic throwbacks to somebody that had to kill stuff and eat it. And like I was kind of crazy about cooking even. I remember as a kid, like that was a big deal for me to cook something. And so as soon as I could get out, mom wouldn't let me have a gun. And so, I think that was every kid's dream was to have a 22, right? Or a 410 shotgun or something like that. But there was no way that was going to happen in my house. And, but mom did agree to let me have a bow. And back then, we're talking about late 70s. Um, Compound bows were incredibly expensive at the time. I guess they still are. But what I could afford or what I could have was a little green Ben Pearson fiberglass recurve bow. And I think at the time my mom thought, well, what kind of trouble could I cause with that? And yeah, guys, I just spent my entire every spare minute I had after school and summer vacations out in the bush chasing things around, right? And starting campfires and building forts and learning bushcraft skills and cooking stuff. And how I didn't die, I don't know, because the amount of raw grouse and rabbit that I ate over the years because I didn't know how to cook stuff. I guess that's my immunity that's built up. But yeah, that's where it all started, and then it's just never ended. It's been that then what a lot of people don't know about me, I guess I'm not a trained chef or anything, but I was involved with an organization called Slow Food. So Slow Food International is a huge organization that it just is what it sounds. It's an organization that has to do with food. So it's food producers, chefs, anybody that has anything to do with food in a non-commodity standpoint, like small producers and small and chefs. And so anyways, I did quite a bit of work with them and was president of the local chapter here in Alberta in Edmonton, and was actually lucky enough in 2012 I went to Turin, Italy, and I spoke in front of, like, it's a huge event, people from all over the planet. So I was speaking in front of thousands of people, and I was talking about um, ancient and heirloom grains. And of course, a lot of the discussion there, as you spend your days wandering around this huge exposition, you're talking with people that are farming proteins and dairy and all sorts of stuff. So, and that's how I met a lot of chef friends that I call friends now. And that's where I learned a lot of the skills that I have for cooking food now. It's also sort of how I met Kevin Coswin, and Kevin is the creator of the web series From the Wild. So I've been one of the main characters on that show now for 10 years. We're filming our 10th season now. So yeah, it's
Awesome.
just been a thing that's sort of always been around my life, is hunting with a bow and cooking food, and so now I'm just going to do that and extend or expand that out onto the ocean with the sailboat. Yeah.
That's awesome. We're starting our cooking venture. Probably, I guess we're probably 2 years into it.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
working with chefs and learning knife skills and how to make certain things and different cuts of meat and the way to do it. But we've been preparing deer meat for years. But it's
Yeah.
a lot of fun to take natural ingredients around you and kind of mix it all
It's,
together.
it's
Yeah.
funny you mentioned heirloom grains. That is actually one of the sort of catalyst, or if you will, that sort of got us more involved with some of the local chefs. There's a local distillery here in Charleston that uses an heirloom corn
Yeah.
to make their bourbon, and we got to know them and some of the chefs, some of the owners of the mill, and sort of some of the chefs they're involved with, and it's such a small community, when you get to know people and who's doing what in that community, and
Yeah.
it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Good for you guys. That's awesome. It's awesome. There's, yeah, we've played around with so many things, like down in grasslands where we hunt antelope and mule deer and stuff. There's a lot of food. There's sage that grows down there, and there's the farmers are growing corn and peas, and we're hunting waterfowl and upland birds. And so it's kind of fun to play around with some of those foraged foods, like corn. You guys have a lot of corn, I'm assuming, down in your neck of the woods, don't you?
Oh yeah,
Soybeans,
there's
maybe,
Oh yeah.
things
cornfields
like that.
everywhere.
Yeah, right.
A lot of
Um,
it's like number two, yellow number two dent or number two yellow dent corn is the majority of it. But Gus
oh,
was talking about Jimmy Red corn, which was invented or not invented, but the name comes from a place called James Island, which is in South Carolina.
Mhm.
And Marsh Hen Mills, we had him on, and he talked. I mean, we probably talked for an hour just about corn, and it was very fascinating. Very fascinating.
Well, there's an old adage that goes with food, and if it grows together, it goes together. So, you can find these
Yep.
local ingredients that where the white acorns or different nuts or different fruits that live in the whitetail woods. And so I have a lot of fun with not only the food aspect of it, but exactly what you just touched on, Gus. Like, so a big tradition with us, I guess, or a habit is that we have happy hour before dinner when we're out in camp. So we play around with foraged cocktails. Will make cocktails or drinks. Um, Usually, we're trying to find ingredients that are really cool and local, uh, you know, um, like my favorite cocktail is called a sidecar. So it's a citrus based whiskey sour type of thing. And
Mhm.
so up here we have a plant. I don't know if you have it, but it's called sea buckthorn. And it's just a berry that grows and it's very citrus like. It's very orange like, but it's a little tiny berry. So, that's our citrus component, right? And then we do all sorts of foraged bitters and things like that. A girl that I'm seeing now, she is big into foraging and making cocktails and things like that. So she's doing a lot of that sort of stuff. But it's it's fun to see how far you can. It's a challenge, and it's really fun to see how far you can take something. And it's not being pretentious, right? Like I don't know, you guys probably don't feel that when you're weirding out on heirloom corn, right? I mean, it's just awesome, right? Like it's you're not trying to be fancy or pretentious about it. You're just trying to explore these different flavors and different ingredients that might come along that people aren't used to, right? And what's wrong with that? So yeah, we do a lot of that.
Yeah, I saw on your YouTube shorts there that your favorite cocktail was the sidecar.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the more I broadcast that, the more places I go, the more people want to make me sidecars. So that's my goal
That's a
with that is just
that's a good thing.
broadcast that everywhere. Exactly.
If you find yourself sailing to the Atlantic and stop in Charleston, we'll make you a sidecar or two.
Nice, like a bourbon based. Yeah,
Oh
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
nice. I should
So
do that, eh? Like you know, it's one of those things where I don't even know how to sail yet, right? So it's kind of stupid to sit here and talk about. Oh yeah, no, I'll totally come to. But there's no way on earth that I'm going to be sitting in a sailboat and not wonder what it's like to go in that direction until I run into another piece of land, right? So we'll see. We'll see. I don't know what I'll do.
Yeah.
well, hopefully it's you plan it with the weather because I've heard that the weather can be dangerous on a boat.
Well, I'm learning so many things now. Like, so for instance, you think to yourself, well, it's totally easy to just swing down the West Coast and hit California and Mexico and whatever, but it's kind of a 6 or 7 month deal because you can't just sail back like with the currents and the prevailing winds. Sailing down isn't a problem, but if you want to get back to like Vancouver Island, which is where we'll be based, you have to actually sail out into the Pacific and hit like Hawaii or beyond and come around in a big circle, right? So
Oh, wow.
yeah, I'll be like Robinson Crusoe. You'll never hear from me again. I'll be on some island somewhere like Gilligan.
You have
So
to
I
get
guess
yourself a Starlink set up on your boat so you can
that,
stay in touch.
that's where I was going. Are you going to get Starlink?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's I don't think we've ordered it yet, but it's certainly on the agenda. Yeah. I'm actually just heading back down to the boat tomorrow morning, like 4 o'clock in the morning. We'll start driving because it's about a 12-hour drive to get down there. And yeah,
Hmm.
another just doing a week of cleanup and some projects like electrical work and things like that, getting it ready to and then we'll go down again in December. We'll spend Christmas down there, Rondeline and I, and then what else would then come January, February, March? We'll just do a few more weeks of projects, and then the plan is to have it out of the water and sort of refit it sometime in like March or April. I want to say maybe late February, um, and just make sure all the mechanics of it underneath are all good to go, and then it'll go on the water. And so this summer we want to actually be out sailing it. That's the goal anyways. So yeah, look at,
Yeah, boats are a lot of work. You know what boat stands for, right? Bring out another 1,000.
yeah, yeah, we heard that. And we've also got 2-foot-itis is another thing where we have a 28-foot liveaboard sailboat, and about five
Yeah,
boats down from us is a 30-foot. And we're looking at it going, oh yeah, that's only another 10 grand, like
yeah.
we could sure
That's what you
use that
need.
extra 2 feet. So we'll see.
That's funny.
That's the guy that married me. That's what he does. He's a sailboat captain, and he does like sailing stuff from Florida to the Bahamas all the time, like missionary type of thing. But he runs
Right.
a sail school, and I went down there and when I was a kid, I don't remember, but I spent a summer down there, Plantation Key, and learned how to sail. It was pretty cool. Got hit with the boom a bunch.
I didn't know that about you, Matt. That's awesome. So do you have any ideas about getting back on a boat ever, or is it just something you're not interested in?
Probably not. It looks very relaxing, but it just seems like I don't know. I like to be out. I get claustrophobic just like
Mm.
sitting, at work, and I just got to get outside and walk around a little bit. I don't know how I would fare on a boat. I've always wanted to go on like a 2 or 3 day trip somewhere
Yeah.
just to see if I could do it. I mean, I know I can do it mentally, but would I get there and decide to fly home? I don't know.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up because we're actually thinking about one of the ways of maybe supporting this lifestyle is to offer those kind of charters, like there's so many things to do food wise and hunting wise there. I'm really excited about black bear hunting on the coast. I mean, I've done that a bunch already anyways, but black bear hunting on the coast is amazing. As is blacktail hunting. There's good elk hunting on Vancouver Island. And then, I'm not going to abandon inland stuff either. So the idea is to maintain well, I don't know. I don't know if I'll maintain. mm, I shouldn't speak yet because I don't know. Um, I'll either maintain a Alberta residence and then stay hunting in Alberta from time to time, or I will take a BC residence and explore all those opportunities, and then just get friends to hunt or host me back in Alberta. So we'll see. I don't know which way I'm going to go. I can do either way, so we'll see what happens. But to
How many
explore some.
freezers are on the boat?
Yeah,
Like,
right. Well, that's one of the things that we're talking about doing is like, so we have friends. There's a friend, Chef Jade Berg, who lives in Campbell River. I've got friends that live on the island. I've got another friend who you might want to have on the show, actually, Blaine Prowse. He is stump stalker archery, and he lives on Haida Gwaii. And so that's an island that's not that far away from Alaska. So, um, they don't know it yet, but the idea is to ask them if we can plug a freezer in, in their garage or something like that, right? So we'll see. We'll wrangle some deals out of guys here and there, and have little maybe caches of frozen wild game sitting around the region. Um, we are going to get a freezer on the boat, but like you said, it's not that big. The other thing we want to do then is exploring other ways to preserve food, right? So canned meat, um, and things like that, dried meat, of course, and dehydrated meat, things like that. So we'll explore all of those things. But I think the reality is that I will switch over to a pretty hardcore seafood diet, right? Like there's crabs are available year round, prawns, spot prawns, uh, shellfish, and then of course fishing. Like I've joked about it, but it's true. I've never been skunked on the ocean. Like people want to go salmon fishing, of course, all the time, and I have been skunked salmon fishing. But whenever I get bored of just trolling around looking for salmon, I just say, "Hey, can we stop the boat right over there?" And I don't even know what I'm doing. It's just right over there looks good, and you drop hooks down to the bottom, and you're catching all rockfish and all sorts of different flounder and cod and all sorts of things. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think the idea is to hunt strategically, um, share the food as best I can so that I'm not stockpiling a bunch of it in different places. And then, that enables me to still enjoy those hunting opportunities as much as I can. Right. So, we'll see. We'll strike a balance between all of it, and then keep it interesting for us and keep it interesting for people watching the show for sure.
How are you? What's your upload schedule? You think for the channel once you get it on the boat?
Once a week. So the idea
Once a
right
week.
now is we're releasing episodes every Friday. I will probably not release an episode tomorrow because I just don't have one quite ready yet. It's been a mad dash with harvest and getting stuff ready, and then trying to balance it as well with, because I just started the channel not that long ago, so I don't have a great stockpile of footage. But I mean, I could certainly release another episode to do with harvest or something like that, but I've already done that. So I don't know what to do there, guys. It's trying to keep it interesting for people. I'm trying to let them know just, the life that I lead. But I think the idea is to go down tomorrow. I might just release something short and quick tonight, tomorrow. I have a few things kind of in the can ready to go. But then I think the idea is to get down on the boat, start working on these projects, start showing people the boat a little more, start showing a bit of the life on the boat, because that will be the primary sort of set for the show moving forward. And then, yeah, the idea, Matt, is to release those episodes every Friday. So, yeah, that seems to be the thing to
I'll
do.
give you I'll give you another idea when you get Starlight, because we have a friend that just did this, and he went from 0 followers, created well, I don't think he had 0, maybe like 100, and he went live every day for the month of July for like 8 hours, just working on the boat, making food. It was called a food boat, and he was making food, all this stuff. Did it all through Starlight, and had a switchboard for the 2 or 3 different cameras he had.
Yeah.
And it became like a hangout spot. By the end of the 30 days, there were people begging him not to go back to work, like, keep doing this. He took vacation for a month and did it, but
Wow.
he got monetized in like, I don't know, 5, 6 days.
Wow.
Um, but that might be something to think about, just live streaming.
It's hard to imagine, right? Like, really? Like, I don't know. They'd see me cracking a beer every now and then, and they'd see me procrastinating, not, putting off that electrical work I need to do. And I don't know. That seems a little too,
It's relatable though.
Yeah,
it
it's
seems a
everybody
little
gets
too
that.
real for me. I don't know.
Well, the other thing too is he had an Amazon like GoFundMe page, and he's like, I could really use this or whatever, and it would show up 3 or 4 days later. Somebody would buy it for him,
Jeez.
um,
Yeah.
and then now your audience is invested. Hey,
Yeah.
get off your ass and go over there and install this.
Yeah, that's a good advice, Matt. I might do that. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
How are you guys? Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to ask how you guys are filming, like in terms of equipment and your preferred your choices for that. I know some channels do a lot of this stuff just with kind of handheld gimbals and iPhones, and obviously you can get super technical. So how are you guys doing that and managing that while you're out on the water?
So photography is a bit of a hobby of mine. I've been doing it for a while on Instagram. Haven't done a lot of filming, but I've collected some gear. So um, I have an old Canon 7D Mark II DSLR. It's a professional grade camera, but I bought it used, so I think I paid $600 for it. Um, yeah, I don't know. What people need to understand is how broke I am. So, I've spent a life building this farm and this farm business, and it's sustaining our family. It's sustaining my wife and I. We're mortgaged, we're debt free, and it's paying us some money, and we're living and paying our bills. So, you know, I could be I could be the guy, and again, not getting into details, but I am completely within my rights to just, have the place be sold and take half my money. The plan is to not do that. The plan is to just not disrupt things. And a lot of people are telling me that's not the right thing to do, that I've worked too hard at this all my life. But anyways, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. So I'm broke. But what I have done is that through the podcast and through my hobby of photography, I've collected some gear. So I've got the little DSLR. Well, not so little, but it shoots in 1080, which I think is fine. I've got a GoPro 7 that barely works. It's such a piece of it. I hate it. Just is always cutting out, but whatever. I can get the odd piece of footage out of it. And then I've got a DJI Mini 2 drone. And then of course, yeah, I've got the iPhone. I just bought a cheap gimbal. Well, it's not so cheap. It was, I think, $300. But anyways, I bought a gimbal for the phone. Actually, Sass bought the gimbal, and she's talking about doing some footage. So it's her gimbal, I guess. And what else? I guess that's about it. And then I've got the audio recording equipment. So I've got a fairly nice audio recording setup to try to capture some of that Foley that is around as far as sounds go along the ocean. So we'll limp along with that stuff. I don't know. You guys can tell me what you think about the quality. I mean, I'm trying my best. The GoPro gives good quality, and the Mini 2 gives good quality. The DSLR, I'm learning how to use better and better, so it's starting to get there. But that's yeah. Well,
Do you have these?
what is that, Matt?
The Rode mini mics or the
Oh.
Rode Goes?
No, I have not used those.
I'm gonna tell you, it's a workhorse. If you're filming with a camera or a GoPro or anything, you can use these. But it's a 2-piece setup. This goes on the camera, and then you have another one that you can run a live mic, or you can literally just clip it onto your shirt. But it's wireless and it works fantastic. And they're not super expensive. I think I'd have to check. I haven't bought them in a while, but I think a 3-pack was like $100.
What? Really? And the quality's good.
It's my workhorse. I use it. Oh yeah, almost every video we post. Every video we post on Instagram uses these.
Oh wow.
Like
Okay.
that has sound.
You'll put that in the show notes so when I come back to look later, I can see it.
I'll drop it down for everybody. I'll make a note.
Yeah, perfect.
Yep, we do that.
Yeah. So, we'll see what happens. I do like that live thing. We were talking about doing some other things to create value for people. Like YouTube now has like the different layers. So you can monetize. I think I could monetize now, not with ad revenue, but with, just, through memberships or what, you know what I'm talking about, the different levels of subscriptions that you can sell. So I don't know. One of the things we were talking about was doing like a live session, like just like what we're doing now, like once a month or something like that. But what you're saying is to do it every day for a month. So I'll have to get my head wrapped around that. But yeah, we worked, it's just fun, right? We're sitting here talking, the three of us. I'm in northern Alberta, Canada. You guys are way down on the southeast coast. And we're sitting here chatting and, like old friends, right? So that appeals to me a lot, to be able to do stuff like that live. So yeah, you're giving me ideas for sure. We'll see what sticks.
It's definitely a lot of fun, and he had a great time doing it. It's a lot of work, but it gets you motivated to do it every day. But I think I would definitely tune in to see you're launching today, and here's the 10 first mistakes you've made and everything you're learning in the next 5-10 days. Because it's going to happen. You're going to get out there and be like, man, we did not think about that.
Oh, guaranteed, Matt. Yeah, like absolutely. It's already happening. So, yeah, no, I don't even want to get started with all that. There's things that you have not contemplated, like that are definitely coming up already. So, yeah. And you know what? That's the thing too, right? Is like, I will not have a problem with being authentic with this because, I don't know. I don't think that way. It's kind of fun to show what an idiot I am at times, right? Where you're just like, like I I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm going to try my best. And of course, you do your pre-work, you do your research ahead of time as best you can, but until you do it a few times, you're going to be a noob at it, right? So, yeah, it'll be fun to show that for sure. I don't plan on cutting any of that sort of stuff out.
That's good. That's what people subscribe to see is the real stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, those shows you see, guys, and they everything is picture perfect all the time. Every hunt goes just right. Every time they put the boat in, they launch it. They have a great day on the water, and everybody knows. Everybody sees right through it. That's not realistic. We all know
Yeah,
that you go to the field and you don't see anything. Sometimes it's just the way it is.
yeah, right. Yeah, but Gus, well, then why are so many people tuned into those shows though? Like those are the big money shows that you're talking about that are so popular.
It is.
It drives me nuts, right? Like,
Yeah,
why is
there
it
is an
that the
appeal to
last,
it.
yeah, why is it that the last day of every episode is the day that they crush something and eat it, like, give me a break. But anyways,
I think
maybe that's what
it's
happened.
by design. I
How,
think it's a recipe, right? They found the recipe and they cook the same meal every episode, and I think I really think that's what it is.
well, it seems that way to me, but whatever. I'm not going to call anybody a liar, so we'll see. Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure. For sure.
Yeah. Are you guys getting into some hunting now? You must be by now.
Yes, sir. Our season started August 15th, which is pretty crazy. And that's bow or rifle.
Yeah.
It's one of the longest seasons in the country. It goes from August 15th to January 1st.
Yeah, and you guys can shoot what, like 50 deer each or something like that down there?
I wish. I think
What
it's
do
a good. I think your tags come with $2 and 4 does, and then you can buy additional doe tags. And then some years they have doe days where you can go to public land and get a free doe.
Neat. Oh yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's reasonable. I was kind of joking, but yeah, I hear some states down there that are just getting overrun with deer where you're allowed to shoot a deer a
Yeah.
day. Yeah. We're not like that.
I know
Yeah, there's
states.
a lot of places that are overrun with does. People just aren't killing enough does, and it's beginning to be a problem. So they're encouraging taking does as much as possible for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'd think with the
That was
price of food nowadays that wouldn't be a problem. You'd think people would be
Right?
filling their freezers like crazy, right?
When
Yeah.
was the last time you bought meat?
Oh, that's a good question. Years. But it depends what kind of meat you're talking about. Red meat? Like, I don't know. Yeah. Decades even maybe. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure you bought chicken. Yeah, I mean that's what I mean is red meat.
Well, yeah, yeah, and I think yeah, we bought chicken here and there, but even then, I've had some rough grouse in the freezer and different birds, upland birds and things like that. So not very often. Yeah, yeah. How about you guys?
We just recently found out how terrible the food is for you, and so I haven't bought meat in quite some time. It's been a couple of months, but I cheated and bought a half a cow.
Hmm.
But I'm hoping to fill the freezer with venison this year. But I hope to never buy meat again. I want to get away from buying anything from the store. I just don't trust it anymore.
That's my goal too, Matt. Absolutely. A lot of people say that's you can't do that, and I'm sure they're right. There are going to be some things that you need to buy, but man, like challenge accepted, right? You know,
Hmm.
uh, Sugar and salt and things like that. Like I don't know. There's alternatives, isn't there? And you know, I kind of like so that when I was farming and doing the homestead thing, um, that was always a big thing for me. Is like, well, it- everybody's saying, well, you can't do that or it's impossible or whatever. Well, it was possible for our grandparents and their parents and every other generation before that for the last however many hundreds of thousands of years. So, it's to me it is something. It's like I love that idea, Matt, is like just see what and you don't have to do it all. Like I was just talking with who was I talking to about that with homesteading, and I've just made a few posts on it actually. Is like you don't have to do it all. Like maybe
Yeah.
Gus has the beef and Matt has the pork and I have the chicken and or whatever, and we just trade around with each other to do the same amount of work. So I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
a big fan of creating community with people around me, that because if you try to do it all, you're just going to end up doing none of it, right? It's going to collapse under its own weight. You're going to run out of time and energy eventually, as I did. And yeah, so good for you. I love that. That's great
You
ambition.
just definitely can't do it all. You got to have people around you that are willing to do some of it too, and because even just doing simple things like mint and oregano and and then we supply our own meat, but it's like we still got to go buy lettuce somewhere, and we get I don't really eat lettuce, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, but maybe you can find
Yeah.
somebody nearby and do a trade for some venison or catfish or whatever.
Hmm.
If you find some people that are around you that are doing that sort of thing, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I want to stock the freezer and definitely try to trade some venison for other types of meat, specifically bacon.
Bacon. Yeah. 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 Well, and wild pigs. Do you have wild pigs down there that can accomplish that?
We do.
We
Yeah.
do indeed.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just need to go get them. we know where they are. They're pretty much in the same section of the national forest all the time.
Oh yeah.
It's just going out there and making the commitment to do it. Working full time and then whiskey whitetails and family. And I
Yeah.
mean, Gus,
It
he's got 3 kids and sports, and
Yeah.
I don't know how he
yeah,
does it.
I don't know how I do it either, but and it's not just it's not just it's not like a day trip. Usually, you got to plan a couple days. You got to take a canoe
Mm.
up upriver to the swamp area where they're at, and kind of then locate them. There, you generally know where they're at, and then you're fighting mosquitoes and snakes and everything else that wants to kill you while you're trying to kill a hog, and hopefully come out of there with a couple. But yeah, they're definitely around.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'll give you guys some well, not advice, but some optimism is that you'll be shocked at how soon, like you guys are in the heat of battle right now with kids and family and thing like that, but man, that ends in a hurry, man. Like I'm 56 now, and you just think it's never going to end, right? And then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, they're driving, like they're 14 and driving a car, and they're 16 and they're really driving a car, and they're 17 or 18 and they're off to college, and then you're just sitting there twiddling your thumbs. So it comes pretty fast. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I try to enjoy it as much as I can, and not get too wrapped up in the downside of it being so busy. Because yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. It goes by way too fast.
Yeah, exactly. Good for you, Gus. Yeah.
The you mentioned black bear and some other stuff earlier. What is your favorite thing to hunt? Like, what do you really like to get out and get after with your bow?
Oh man, that's hmm.
'Cause I really enjoyed your podcast and your talk with Clay Newcomb and about
Yeah,
black bear and some of the stuff
yeah,
you guys got into.
yeah.
But I didn't know if that was just what's your go to, your preferred.
Yeah, I guess I would have to. It depends what yeah, I guess I would say black bear, Gus, because like, just the act of spot and stalking black bear is pretty exciting. So it offers that entertainment value that, let's be real, that's what we look for when we're out hunting, right? But then it
Sure.
offers that culinary value. Like, so bear meat is so versatile. It tastes like nothing else out there. It is a sort of it's a flavor acceptor type of meat where you can turn
Yeah.
black bear meat into good old fashioned southern barbecue or Korean food or just anything. It can it really takes a lot of different flavors well. Then you've got, especially if you shoot a fall bear, you've got all that fat and lard which can be used for so many things, both cooking
Yeah.
and industrial use, like bear grease, for boots and waterproofing. And then you've got the fur as an outcome as well. So I don't know, right behind me, I
Right.
don't know if you can see it, like my bedspread is, a big 7-foot black bear that I shot a couple of years ago. So there's all that
Wow.
utility that comes from a bear. And I do love that. I mean, deer hunting is
Yeah.
awesome. And I love
Sure.
venison. But yeah. Yeah. If you gave me
Yeah.
one more thing to hunt, it would probably be a black bear. Yeah.
Yeah. They're an awesome resource. I don't think we get them that big here in South Carolina though. 7
Yeah.
foot's huge. That's a big
Yeah.
black bear.
Yeah.
What's
I
it
was
like getting that close to a black bear that big with a recurve?
Oh, well, this bear that's on my bed right here was a rifle kill from 2 years ago, but that was at 40 yards. And so as soon as I did that, I went, I was kind of regretting it because I easily could have gotten closer. But I killed one almost identical uh, several years before that with my recurve, and that was at 12 steps. And
Wow.
on the ground. Yeah. So that was a spot and stalk to within 12 steps. And being honest with you, the bear came to me for the last 100 yards or so. So I just got lucky and the bear worked his way right into me down an old logging road. Um, so yeah, it's exhilarating. But what's funny? I can sit here and say to myself, well, there's this thought that goes through your mind that this animal is something that you're hunting that could easily just turn around and hunt you, right? And yeah, for sure. I mean, there was just an incident up here in Alberta like a couple of weeks ago where a couple got killed. So bears are dangerous, and they can mess you up. And there's a great story on my podcast. My friend Jeff runs an outfitting company in northern BC, and a bear came into the tent and ripped one of the guides up really bad. And then one of the hunters actually shot him as he's shooting the bear. Like, it's a great story if anybody wants to go and listen to that story. It's
Shit.
Jeff Lander. So
Okay.
yeah, the bear comes into the wall tent in the middle of the night and starts mauling the guy in his sleeping bag. And the guy's yelling, "Shoot it, shoot it!" And one of the hunters grabs his rifle and shoots, and shoots the guy in the elbow, and shoots again, and kills the bear. So at the end, so it was several minutes of you can imagine what the sounds
Absolutely.
were, right, in the darkness. And um and then the lights come on, they get things organized, and there's just blood everywhere, like inside this wall tent, and a dead bear laying in the middle of the wall tent. So bears can do a lot of damage. But what's interesting is when I'm hunting them and I get close to them, none of that, all of that goes away. There's none of those feelings of being worried about it or being afraid. I find that really fascinating. It must go back to when we were, well, we are the predator. But you know what I'm trying to say? It must go back
Yeah.
to the times when we were just holding a stick and a sharpened stone, and the benefits were outweighing the risks. Because they certainly don't now, right? Like, what would either of you hunt a bear like within 12 steps if you thought, or if you knew that you were going to get hurt or killed? Like, probably not, right? But back in the day when you had, a family, your family's survival depended on that, or your tribe, or whatever it was. Yeah, I don't know.
Sure.
I find that whole thing interesting, that those feelings of
Yeah.
danger sort of go away. But yet, if
There's
you're hiking,
definitely
if you were hiking and,
oh,
whatever,
yeah.
holding a fly rod or something, I guess you would have those feelings, right? You'd be scared crapless, right?
Well, I don't know. I see people walk up to him and try to take pictures with him all the time. So it's which is ill advised. Don't do that. But
Don't.
yeah, there's definitely some primal stuff that comes out in you in hunting, and I mean, you can notice it on almost any kind of hunt,
Yeah.
where it's just the feelings that you get. I mean, for someone that's never hunted before, you can't even explain it. It's just the
Yeah.
adrenaline dump, and it's like, where does all that come from? It's got to be the reward system of knowing what you just did to provide for your family, your tribe, or
Yeah.
just the
Yeah.
ritual of the hunt itself.
I
I
always
think it's,
describe it to
I think,
new hunters. Sorry, go ahead, Gus.
oh, no, no, I was just gonna say, I think it is very primal. And I've never hunted bear, but I've been in situations where the situation is dangerous, but you have to move forward. You have to continue forward. Otherwise, it's only more
Yeah.
dangerous. And in that moment, you're not really thinking about that. You're thinking about the end goal and what you have to do. And it's really only afterwards when you kind of do a little self reflection that you realize, man, I was a step or two from dying today if I hadn't been careful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's something very very primal about it, where your brain shuts that off and it doesn't allow you to process that because it'd be detrimental otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's brilliant. Um, I always tell new hunters, that what that feeling is, the adrenaline. They don't get it, right? Because when, like, if you weren't a hunter, when would you ever feel that feeling, right? So I always tell people this. Imagine that you're in a near miss car accident, like a near miss where and your heart is just pounding, but you come out of it without a scratch, right? And then you're happy. And so times that by, 100, or or make that feeling last for 15 minutes, and then that's kind of the equivalent of what you would have, right? It's this feeling of, I just can't explain it. Your heart is just pounding. And so, anyways, none of the listeners here will be unaccustomed to that feeling. But yeah, describing it to new people is pretty interesting, isn't it? And another story I can share with you is, I years ago now, I killed a cougar. We killed 3 cougars in 3 days between three of us, and I was hunting with my old vine maple self bow, a rose shaft arrow, and some heads that I had napped out of flint. And so we trailed this cougar with the dogs, and had it treed in a big ponderosa tree up on a ridge. It was a really hard hunt. We had gone after it for several miles through, thigh deep snow. And it was only about 8, 9 feet in the air. And for me to get a shot through to this thing, I only had to be maybe 8 feet away from the trunk of the tree. So it was basically like right above me. And I shot. And again, there's no feeling of danger whatsoever. It's like, okay, I need to kill this thing because I want to eat it. And so you're just in that mindset. And I put an arrow right through the boiler room, and this thing jumped out of the tree over our heads. So, the video is like this arrow zipping through the cougar. And then all of a sudden the camera goes down and you can hear my friend grunting as he's sprinting, right? He's like, as he's running. This cougar just went flying right over our heads and ran down the mountainside and piled up a few hundred yards down the road, or down the slope of the mountain. So yeah, it's funny, hey, how those feelings just disappear from you.
I think the feelings of success feel better when you know that you made that arrowhead. I've never done that, obviously.
Yeah, that's a weird one. Hey, I sort of battle with that because it verges on the I mentioned this word already, so I'm overusing it, but it verges on being pretentious about things a little bit, right? It's like, so yeah, so am I being a douche because I mentioned that I made this vine maple self bow and the rose shaft arrow shaft, arrow
Not to me.
shaft? Yeah, but so it's interesting. So do I feel better about that kill because of that gear? And I guess the answer would be yes, because I mentioned it. If I didn't feel any better about it, I probably wouldn't have mentioned it. So, but it is interesting, isn't it? Does that make me a better hunter than somebody who didn't do that? Well, no, 100% not. It's just, yeah, I find that sort of discussion interesting. A guy using a compound bow, or a guy using a rifle, or a guy or a girl using a whatever legal means there is to hunt. And then there's the whole thing too with like, should you be using a weapon that is the most efficient at killing things, right? Because that's the most humane thing to do. So yeah, it's a debate that rages between people who are willing to die on whatever hill they're on, and I tend not to take that stance. I do some rifle hunting. I would, the one thing I've never done that I would love to try is shotgunning deer. That's not a thing up here really at all. And I've always wanted to do that. So yeah, I've used a compound bow. I've used my hipster archery equipment. I've used a nice custom recurve. I've done it all, and it's all just, at the end of the day, it's pretty interesting to have a meal made out of something that you've had a hand in harvesting and processing yourself. I think that's what it boils down to.
Yep, 100%. It's I would love to know what that feels like. Cause I don't have I own a recurve. I have a 1964 Fred Bear. It's a 56 pound. Good bow. I've never killed anything with it, but I practice with it all the time. So I've got like that muscle memory thing kind of
Yeah,
dialed down.
yeah.
But I wonder if like your first time shooting a deer with a recurve, if I'm going to doubt myself and be like, and screw it up. That's the reason
Oh,
I don't take it with me.
yeah. I would think no. Number one, I mean, I see your compounds bow on the wall behind you there, Matt. So I would assume that you're really proficient at shooting a bow out to 50, 60 yards, something like that, right? I mean, you practice with it and you're extending that range out as far as you can, right? So with a recurve, you just won't do that. You will limit your shots to within 20 yards or even 15 yards. I think I was talking with, who was I talking? Randy Cooling, or I forget who I was talking about now, where they had done a study, or they referred to a study that showed that I think it was 500 different hunters had reported their success back. And so can you guess what the average distance was for a hunter being successful with a deer with a recurve? Either of you?
I'd think pretty low, like 10 yards.
12 to 15 yards. Yeah, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, 14 and a half yards. That was the
Wow.
average. So, um, To me, I think that's what attracts me to traditional bow hunting more than anything, is just that I face that limitation. So I live in a world where, if I don't shoot a whitetail this year, that's okay. I've got friends that will share venison and have in the past. Um, at the end of the day, I'm not going to starve, right? I can go to a grocery store and I can buy meat, right? But by limiting yourself to that sort of hunting opportunity, like that 12-yard opportunity, I don't know, it creates more time in the field, which is enjoyable. It creates more challenge, which is enjoyable. um, and then, yeah, you're not going to miss at 12 yards. You're not going to miss. You can pretty much shoot with your eyes closed, kind of thing. It's just that close, right? So yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know, teach their own, right? You One day you might want to do it and try it, and then, yeah, I don't know, it'll appeal to you, or it won't, and that's okay.
I've thought about taking it with me and just kind of having it there, and if the opportunity arises, using it. Otherwise, use the compound bow. But then it's just one more thing to lug up a tree. So
Yeah,
I
I'm a
got all
big
the reasons
proponent.
not to do it, and I just
Yeah.
need to do it.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of, like, creating intention with my trips, right? So I will be the guy that goes, yeah, you know what? I'm going to kill a mule deer with my 20 gauge shotgun. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm going to do. If I fail at it, great. If I, hopefully I'm successful at it. And I'll probably keep trying until I am successful. And I don't know, for me, that's what creates a lot of the enjoyment, is, setting that goal of, I want to shoot the biggest deer that I can, or I want to shoot the smallest deer that I can. Like this year, my goal is to shoot the smallest deer that I can find, because they give you a different food outcome, right? It's pretty special. So I haven't had a fawn in several years now, and that's one of my goals, right? So it doesn't mean that if that huge, 160 class, walks past me, that I'm not going to shoot it, but um, it, yeah, and so what's interesting about that is, when you make that intention, what I find, at least anyways, is that I get super excited when that fawn is walking down the trail towards me. Like, I get just as excited, almost. Maybe I'm lying a little bit, but I get really excited about uh, this opportunity that's presenting itself, or about to present itself. It's kind of neat, just by changing my mindset. So I'm going to use the shotgun, or I'm going to shoot, a doe, or I'm going to shoot a fawn, or I'm going to shoot a big buck. Like, when each of those scenarios start to unfold, you find that enjoyment really ramp up. So I don't know, for me at least, anyways.
That's what I love about listening to your podcast, is because it's a for those, like, the majority of people are like this. Hit my mic. Are the And I know you and Sean James talked about it. Sportsmen, and I use air quotes there, where they only go out and shoot one thing so they can brag about it. And you guys had a whole talk about social media, which I agree with. Which you'll notice we don't ever post the stuff y'all were talking about. But when they hear something like shoot a doe, or you were talking in one episode about getting a tag for um, a moose calf,
Hmm.
and like people would be appalled, these sportsmen. But the reality of it is like, as to be able to provide food for yourself and the world that you live in and the things that you do, like, it's a challenge. It's something that you're gonna do and you're excited about it. And we're the same way. Meat is the meat's got to be provided for, and it's just so fun to have a different perspective on it, as opposed to what we normally have on this podcast, where everybody's like, "Well, I'm only going to shoot a 160 this year, or what, or I won't kill nothing."
Mm.
Where
Yeah. Well, that mindset's been perpetuated by a lot of the TV shows you were talking
yeah,
about, where everybody only wants to shoot this big, this big buck, and so the result is that you have an overpopulation of does that's putting stress on habitat, and it's detrimental to the species as a whole, and it's not good for quality deer management, and it has a negative impact on other species as well. Um, so yeah, we're right on line with you, and setting those expectations and having goals. Uh, like you said, it makes it more exciting, and I think it's important.
Well, here's the other thing too, is, like, we're talking about food a lot, right? Is that a lot of times I will get on a kick about certain food. What, I don't know, like, I'm not really on one right now, but for a while I was on a barbecue kick there for a while. And so there'll be different food outcomes that you have in mind that maybe lend themselves better to a certain species or a certain age bracket within that species, right? Like, so one of my favorite meals, for instance, is neck roast. Like a braised neck roast, especially in a barbecue sauce or a sweet sour or anything like that, or a taco, is just amazing because of those long striated muscle fibers that just create this really different texture, right? But so what do you think is the best animal to give me that that food outcome? Well, it's a big buck with his huge neck, right? And then there's other things where maybe I want a more delicate, I want like a schnitzel or something like that, or some sort of more delicate meat. Well, what's the best outcome for that? It's going to be a young whitetail buck, right? Or doe or something like that. So I don't know, you know,
Yeah, it's a
I get,
different.
sorry.
No, it's a unique and very culinary approach to hunting, which we don't get to talk a whole lot about. Not a lot of people have that vantage point. It's very interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, and ground even, like I will take a lot of the best cuts of a deer and grind them up, and people just, what? Like, like ground loin is amazing.
Oh, I bet it
Because
is.
it is giving you a different texture. So yes, you can take what everybody always does, which is to take the worst cuts, the shoulder cuts and the neck cuts and things like that, and grind them up into ground meat. But those cuts generally are the most flavorful cuts. So if you learn how to cook them in a braise or a sous vide or something like that, something that just makes them melt in your mouth, you're going to really enjoy the shit out of it. And then if you take those loins and other things that you're not all of them, of course, but if you take a portion, you're going to make the best hamburger you've ever eaten in your life if you take a nice loin and grind it up and do your hamburger jam with it, right? So yeah, I don't know, I like challenging the norms when it comes to stuff like that, for sure. The other thing too, like I come from a point of privilege. We're living where I live. I've killed 160 bucks, and we have 160 bucks. Well, I don't know. Like sometimes I exaggerate, but we have 160 bucks. Like I see 160 bucks every week kind of thing, right? I won't get a shot at them, of course, but I've killed plenty of big bucks. And so I get that maybe there are some folks that live in states where that type of opportunity doesn't exist. So yeah, I would get that their focus would be to shoot big bucks. And the one thing that the US has done well in the last 30 years is this quality management thing that's been adopted down there. Because when I was outfitting whitetail bow hunting here in the 90s, the Edmonton Bow Zone, and a few places in Saskatchewan and different places like that were the place to shoot big bucks. Places like Michigan and the Midwest, you weren't able to see 180 or 170 class deer. And then through this management practice of uh, letting the young bucks walk, now all of a sudden you guys are getting these opportunities at big whitetails. So it's kind of that catch 22, isn't it? Where you got this mentality of like, I'm only going to shoot a big buck, or I'm not going to shoot anything at all. Um, Versus never having the opportunity to shoot a big buck, right? So yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. I find that dynamic kind of interesting. I can sit here and say, yeah, I'm going to shoot a fawn or I'm going to shoot a doe and be happy, but that comes from a standpoint of, there's walls on my head behind me. I don't need to shoot another big buck, really. So I
Makes
get
sense.
that.
Yeah. Are you going to give up the fly fishing deal, or are you still going to do it? 'Cause I know you're pretty passionate about it.
Oh, no way, dude. The one thing that I'm learning about the BC coast is all of the fly fishing opportunities that exist. So a friend of mine, Don Thomas Jr., people may have read him. He described to me, well, he described to everybody. He wrote a story about it. I don't know where now, but about kingfish or king salmon fishing with his fly rod. But the other thing that exists
Oh,
down there as well is like the pinks and the cohos, the sea run cutthroats, and then there's all sorts of bass and rockfish and things like that exist along kelp beds, and there's tons of opportunities, saltwater. And then of course, if you go inland, on Vancouver Island or the mainland, there's still all sorts of freshwater species that are available. So yeah, no, I'll never put that fly rod down. In fact, I plan on expanding that a bit. So yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think that you would. I was gonna say a lot of people we know down here anyway. There's a lot of people that fly fish in the ocean, in the
Oh,
saltwater.
this, yeah. What this would that be stripers or what would they be fishing for?
Tarpon. A lot of people are going for
Oh,
tarpon.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, in
Yep.
the flats and stuff.
Anything that
Redfish.
lives up top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of opportunities that I've tried, I've dabbled in them before and I've failed miserably. And so yeah, I want to go hard at that. To be able to I love
Mhm.
fly fishing. I love building fly rods and tying flies. To me, that's sort of similar to building a bow and napping a flint head. So yeah.
Yeah. Are you so you offer, just to let everybody know, you offer a lot of stuff for people if they want to come learn how to do it from you.
Oh, yeah, I don't know what'll happen there actually, Matt. So right now, in the past couple of years, yes, I've offered fly fishing classes. And here in Edmonton, northern Alberta, there's not a lot of fly fishing. Uh, it's not really the fly fishing center of the universe, so it's been a little bit of a tough sell as far as selling the courses. So I think the plan is to do that more down on the coast. We'll see. We'll see. I want to expand though. One of my jams and something that I'm okay at is campfire cooking, and it's something that I really enjoy to do. And so one of the things I want to offer is like a campfire cooking course in person, where we'll just set things up on a beach and go and we'll cook a few things on the beach. So we'll do that. The other thing I want to do is partner up with some friends of mine that are also in a chefing sort of world and do some collaboration type dinners, events, things like that. And then I am playing around with the idea of bringing people out on the sailboat. Like, come with us for the weekend. We'll hook you up with food and drink for the weekend. We'll go for a sail. We'll sail to some secluded cove somewhere with a beach, and then we'll go on shore. We'll have a really nice bottle, a Chateauneuf de Pape, a nice bottle of wine, and cook up some crab and some other stuff, and then sleep on the boat, cook you breakfast, and bring you home the next day, kind of thing. So we're playing around with ideas like that for sure. I do enjoy the idea of sharing some of this wild food skill set or lifestyle with people for sure. So I want to keep going with that. Yeah.
I hope you put some of that on the YouTube as well. The campfire cooking stuff. That's something Gus and I do a good amount of, and
Oh, cool.
really enjoy just the campfire. The whole that's like our thing. Sitting around the campfire with people after a hunt and having some whiskey and cooking some food and just sharing stories. It's to me, I think that's like all the things that we're missing now in this modern life that we live that our ancestors didn't have. I think that's probably the biggest thing that we're missing.
Right? No kidding, right? Just that sense of community. And I wonder how many people that live in cities that are busy with their lives of going to work and coming home and going to sleep and then repeat. Gosh, I feel bad for those people that don't get to experience that, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Same.
So we'll
Yeah.
try
You
to bring it
mentioned you
to them.
mentioned Yeah, you mentioned earlier having cocktails, or happy hour before dinner, after hunts or whatever, and that's been sort of the backbone of whiskey and whitetails from the very beginning is cultivating that camaraderie and that fellowship. The place where food and hunting and the outdoors and whiskey all sort of intersect, and it's just a perfect place for things like this.
Yeah.
Couple of guys that have never met to get on a call and be able to chat for an hour and have so much in common and so many like-minded opinions and thoughts. There's a lot of us. There's a lot of us out there. There's a lot of opportunity for shared meals and drinks, and it's just it's awesome. So we're all about.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, I love what you guys are doing too. And you can buy a cheap flat of beer or you can buy a really cheap whiskey or you can but why? Why not? Why not just seek something a little cooler? And it doesn't mean you have to spend more money, but just find something that you really love and instead
Yeah,
of, having the whole bottle, you have a drink or two and it's just yeah, it's pleasurable, isn't it?
Yeah. Definitely,
Absolutely.
especially when you can share it with people.
Yeah.
All right, John. I really, really appreciate you coming on here. We don't want to take a ton of your time. And I'm gonna go make some dinner myself. You got me starving over here.
Good, Matt. Well, thank you so much for having me on, you guys. I'm a big fan of your show, and I will do my best to spread the word for you guys and what you're doing, because I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, same. Other than all the stuff we're gonna put in the show notes for where people can find you, is there any other tidbits or secrets they need to know, especially on how they can support you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I appreciate it. If you can go to the big thrust right now is with YouTube. So you go to YouTube and then just look up John Schneider's Wildlife, all one word, and support me as best you can just by commenting and subscribing, obviously. And then more important than that is, share it with friends and family. The goal here is I'm starting over from scratch. I'm 56 years old. I'm starting over from scratch so as not to disrupt my family life here that I'm leaving back behind. And that's a challenge. So there will be other ways to help with the monetization of it down the road. I don't know what that is, and if people choose to do that because they found that I'm creating value in their life, then that'd be wonderful. But for now, just go check out John Schneider's Wildlife.
Awesome. Well, we love what you're doing. We're huge supporters for sure. We want to have you back on to check in again too.
Yep,
Well,
absolutely.
I'd love you guys got to come out and see the boat, man. Like, I don't know if that's
Oh yeah.
possible one day.
Dude, yeah, we would. You were talking about stopping somewhere and having a dinner on the beach somewhere. We'd love to be able to meet you somewhere and bring some whiskey and do a
Yes.
pairing with whatever you cook and
Can you
have
hear?
some drinks and cook. Yeah, it'd be great.
Well, see, now there's an impetus put on me to make it through the Panama Canal and get over to you guys. So
We won't put it on you that hard. We'll come to the West Coast and
Yeah,
see you somewhere.
we'll come to the West
yeah,
Coast.
well, we'll see. Dude, you give me an excuse to sail around the Horn. That's what I'm looking for. So,
Oh, your
All right.
excuse is here anytime you want it.
all right, guys, thanks so much.
All
Yeah,
right,
thank you,
thanks,
John.
John.
Drinking whiskey.